Welcome to the Million Dollar Multi-Op Podcast. Here, you're going to find education, entertainment, and a little inspiration on how to get to the next level. Are you a DJ company owner that's looking for the secret sauce? Congrats, you found it.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Million Dollar Multi-Op Podcast. I'm your host, David Osborne with BlueprintLearn.com. We back in the interviews, people. We had a month of them solo casts, and for my first interview back, I got my boy, none other than Sound Insight, Athens, Georgia's own Cannon Phillips. Welcome, Cannon. Yeah. How many people you got over there, Cannon?
Dude, way too many, clearly. Can't you tell?
It's so empty. That's the Easter egg for anyone who's watching on YouTube. We have a small listener base on YouTube, mostly on the Spotify. But, man, so let me give the little setup. And then also joining will be Cannon's dog, Benson, from time to time in the background, which I'm excited about. Benson's great. Cannon works under the Sound Insight and Athens DJ Service umbrella, does operations, DJs, all kinds of stuff. And I think that's a great way to get things kicked off. Cannon, why don't you kind of share with the listeners what it is that you do with us?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks for inviting me to be on the Million Dollar Multi-Op. This is sick.
Yeah.
Everybody that's a part of it has been so sweet to me so far.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice. But so I actually moved to Athens, oh gosh, I don't know, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, kind of a whole restart in a lot of different ways, but kind of found it like most people do. Found a DJ role on Indeed and went into it, and long story short, became a DJ / MC and have grown into an operational manager role, running the warehouse, as well as working a lot with the team for hiring and training purposes as well.
Yeah. So you are, for those of you that are listening, Cannon went from what I would call gig pay to a model where we have full-time salary, whereas still doing gigs, still working shows, but then also does midweek work, which is awesome. And part of our leadership team and on all the quarterlies and all the meetings and all the stuff. And I'm a sauce Cannon up. Didn't know about this coming at you, but we have a pretty standard cadence when we have new trainees about how long we think they're going to stick around different parts and positions. And I think it was like your first wedding, and Ian was your mentor DJ. And I remember him messaging me and he's like, he's ready to go. This guy's got some skill. So I think kind of talk to us about what background jobs you've had before coming here, because I think that helps illuminate a lot of your skill sets and why you're so amazing at a lot of different things that you kind of came to us with a lot of.
Yeah, sure. I think it actually goes further back than what I would consider like something that was a paying job. But I feel like I learned a lot of discipline and more on the musical side of things, I guess, when I was in marching band all throughout high school. It's in a very small school, so it was a very dedicated program. And I feel like I learned a lot of discipline, as well as getting that scratch to play music and the kind of better yourself, being challenged every day. So I think that's originally where it started. But that kind of in tandem went with my first real job, which was a busser, being a busser at Olive Garden. And, who would have known what that job ended up carrying me into? I took from being a busser and worked my way through every front of house position and back of house position to become like a operational manager, essentially, with that, or a kitchen manager really is what it was. But I got promoted essentially and moved into the role of running a kitchen in various different places. And that slowly grew into becoming an interim GM. I never really was an exact GM, but I had all the things for it to fill in for a GM when they left. So I took over running the entire restaurant for about 2 years, which was probably one of the craziest learning experiences I've ever been a part of. You learn so many things about team development and personal development and how you approach one another. And oh my gosh, business things that I've never would have ever thought I would have looked at. So it was pretty crazy to go from cleaning a table to, coaching everybody on how to do the same thing. So it's pretty cool.
Um, I I love that most of our team now, especially like our newer recruits, all seem to have a musical background, and I think that's pretty cool that it took some time for us to figure that out. I think you were part of that discovery process because so not everyone, but most everyone, especially all of our newer hires, have some kind of musical background, chorus, band, sing at church, like whatever it might be. They've got something because there's something about being in an ensemble, right? You talked about being a marching band. There's something about like being one of many that's providing something together that requires discipline and showing up and having to like work on stuff on your own and bringing it to a greater thing. It's like, it's a skill set that when you come to us, man, it's just like, it just gets you right in. And then you also have the skill set, like you said, being a busser and then also waiting tables, those one-on-one interactions with people, like developing your customer service skills.
Well, yeah, I feel like there's this fun thing about when you play in an ensemble that I was actually fortunate enough to be the section leader of the drum line for 2 or 3 years, which again, its own challenges. But when you talk about playing within an ensemble, which you're familiar with, but it's not about just you. I mean, it can't be. If it's solely about you, you're gonna drag everything down, right? You're gonna stand out. You're not playing as one, and that's like the most important thing is you have to think as a unit, right? Especially as a drum line when you have I don't know, depends on how big your line is, but multiple different voices, right? And they all have to work in unison. And so if you as a leader aren't listening and adapting immediately, you know, you're going to sound really bad.
Yeah,
You're going to
right.
sound really bad. And I think, like you said, being in an ensemble, there's just certain things that you learn that, while yes, that doesn't sound exactly like growing a team per se and managing them, but the characteristics are still the exact same. And I think that you can take a lot of those same skills that you learn and develop those into, team building exercises or things very similar,
Yeah, it's almost like performance within a structure.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great way to put
You're
it.
taught how to perform, but then you're also taught how to perform within a group. And Jasmine from Hype Productions was on the podcast some months ago, and she's a huge athlete and coaches softball teams. And it's a similar idea. It's that team mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You're still taught to be a superstar. You're still taught to hit home runs and get people out and do your very personal best, but it's all within that team context. I think that's what we on our team get out of the ensemble work or being musicians ahead of time, is that idea that like you've developed your own craft, but then it's together with people.
Absolutely.
So you've got those core skills back there, and then you moved to Athens, you said 3 years ago. And when you started with us, you were just doing, like most everyone else, some casual occasional shows.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember? I don't know if I remember very well. Do you remember at what point things really started to turn up, like into doing way more with us?
Maybe not directly per se, but I do remember that I was hungry, man. I wanted it. I wanted the gigs bad. I enjoyed it. Like I said, the DJing scratched so many itches for me in a lot of ways on the personal side, the social side, as well as the performative side and the musical stuff. So I really enjoyed being able to be in an element that I felt very familiar with. So, but directly when it took off, no, I don't remember directly, but I remember when you were ready to give me more opportunities. Yeah, I was still, there's a bridge that connects to the house that I live at, and it goes over a little moat. And I was standing on that bridge, and I had, was probably 6 months in, maybe 7 or 8, something like that, like outside of training. And I remember I just got off the phone with my mom, and I was just standing out there, and I got a call. It said David Osborne. I was like, why is David Osborne calling me? David never calls me. So I picked up the phone, and you were very complimentary of a lot of the things I've done, and you acknowledged a lot of the positive things that I was bringing to the team and whatnot, which I thought was awesome to hear. And you offered me more. You told me, hey, I want to, if you're interested, I would like to sit down and really talk about how I could bring you more into the team and start as a leadership position and start kind of taking over some minimal tasks to kind of like welcome my way into some of those roles. So
Yeah.
I feel like all my crazy fun calls that I get are always on that bridge out there. So, there's something about it.
I'm glad that you were on a bridge when I called you. That was great. And now we, now I talk to you constantly. Sorry about that.
Hey, I like it.
But you just touched on something that for the people that are listening, the primary audience of this podcast are people that own companies or they manage companies or they're in some way passionate about growing something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you just touched on something that you have all these core skills, right? They're like performative skills. You're great with people, you're great at organization, you're great at all these things. That's great. We get a lot of people like that in our team. Our team is full of people that are great performers, great at organization, great at this, great at that. But being hungry and being consistent are those things for me as an owner, someone who like I'm wearing 30 hats and I'm like, man, I would love to give 5 of these hats away to someone else because that's how we grow. Those are the things that catch my attention. People that are like, oh my gosh, I say yes to a lot. I say yes to opportunity and I consistently show up and do well in everything that I'm asked to do because every time it just builds trust. And I go, man, if you're good with these 3 hats, you want 3 more? Like, and that it's easy. And I think you and I have had conversations about some of our current team members that we see and we're like, okay, this person could probably wear some hats, because it's the same thing. They're consistent and they're hungry.
Absolutely. I think that's kind of the drive and the determination that you can't teach, right?
Yeah.
It takes me back to like the Olive Garden days in a lot of ways that I was like that, right? I was so young. I was so eager just to do something. It was all new. I'd never done anything, never bussed tables before. Who does that, right? I've cleaned the kitchen table, but like millions of times, but such a small role of a big running, facility, cleaning tables, believe it or not, is crucial, right? I mean, you can't eat at a dirty table, or you shouldn't. You can, but you shouldn't,
You shouldn't, yeah.
And you just kind of start to learn that, as you get into a business and you start to see the opportunity and you enjoy it, I think that's a really important thing too, is that you really like it. You have to love it, right? I feel like it's easy to do a job and do it well, but it's hard to do a job that you love, right? And I know that kind of sounds contradictory, but it is, because when you love something so much, you're so much harder on yourself about it, right? You want to be so much better at it immediately, and it takes so much time, determination. I feel like that way with, band. I felt that way with early in the career when I was with Olive Garden. I was like, I want to be the best at everything I can here. And I feel like that's just kind of a characteristic that I have. It's just something that I've taught myself multiple instruments because of stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I hear a song and I'm like, oh, I want to learn that. That was cool. Let me spend 12 hours and figure it out, Yes.
Got the level up, man.
I feel like like Super Mario, and you finish or something like that. He's like going down the pole and he's like super hype. You just beat the level.
He's super hype. But then you ever finish when you're like the little Mario and he has to jump really high? Yeah, and you're like, how does dude jump so high? He's got those tight calves or something. I don't know how he does it.
I definitely feel like, to kind of round that out, I feel like being consistent, like you said, but also loving what you do is so important. I feel like that it gets so overlooked. I mean, a typical 9-to-5 job kind of feels like more something that you have to do. Whereas in our case, we're so lucky because we get to do all the things that we love, and it's still considered our 9-to-5.
Yeah, totally. And I think, from my seat, again, for the listeners, I think this perspective is really interesting, is that I knew early on your history. I knew that you had worked at Olive Garden, I knew you had managed people, and I knew that I saw the way that you talked to people, and lovingly, like the two of us will be in a Slack channel with a new trainee, and I am built to be like, that was wrong. Do it again. And Cannon is so loving. He's so kind. He's so like, he sauces people up. He's like, listen, hey, homie, that was so good. Thanks for your effort. Try tweak. You give like the compliment sandwiches so much better than me. You have a real gift with people. I saw that in you, and I was like, man, you'd be really great at mentoring. You mentored people at Olive Garden. You just have to apply mentoring to DJs. And you were great at the warehouse side or the back side of inventory management at Olive Garden. Well, it's really the same here. It's just like learning the language of how we do it. So I think you grew into those roles with us pretty easily because you had that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But here's where it gets a little tricky because you also still have that performative side,
right,
and the craft that scratches the itches. Mm-hmm. Managing the warehouse might not scratch your itches. You're like, it's just maybe something you're good at and you like, but it's like, it's not the thing that's just your passion maybe. Mm-hmm. So how do you personally, how do you stay focused when you're pulled in these different directions, like that 9 to 5 midweek warehouse training management systems processes, and then cutting loose on the weekend and just turning up a party?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because I feel like that's actually probably something that's really challenging to do. And I think it all starts with mentality. So for me personally, I have to have everything out in front of me. I got to know what's going on, right? Here's my week. Here's what I need to get done. Here's how I need to get it done. It has to be done by this day. There's my deadline. I got a little grace period in there if I have a mistake or I got to fix something, right? That to me is exciting. There's something about that I love. And that to me is the same as DJing, right? It's the same thing. I got to prep this wedding. I got to talk to this couple. I got to get this couple hype and ready to celebrate themselves. And I've got to be their number one fan, right? I think it kind of falls in the same line of you're setting deadlines, you're enjoying the work that you're doing, and you kind of have to just love both, right? Like, again, it kind of falls back into wanting to do something that you love. And I think that when I was at Olive Garden, of course, I'd be like, oh my gosh, it's Sunday. I got to count this entire building, all the stuff that's in it. Do I want to do that? No, I don't. I don't want to do it at all. But I know that the reward after it is that I'm going to be done with it. I'm going to probably notice some things and I'm going to get better doing it, right? I'm going to notice, oh, all this stuff is not where it needs to be. Let me fix that. Let me address that with whoever is in charge of that. Hey, this needs to be like this from now on, And I think there's something about that I just love. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. The passion's just there. So in short, I would say that to stay focused, for one, you got to love what you do. I think that is seriously the utmost important thing. But two, on top of that, setting deadlines and really staying driven on whatever your goal is, right? And you have to be able to want to succeed in that. So
I think that one of the things that, again, you and I talk about offline on a daily, weekly basis with our team and our team development, that's another characteristic that when we see a team member, because like when we're recruiting people to be great DJs, that's not necessarily a skill that's required to be a great DJ. I mean, it is in some ways, but I mean, at least, okay, let me break it down. At our Athens DJ service level, that skill set's not really necessary to learn to throw a great party. But to be at the Sound Insight level, to throw remarkable parties at a really high level, high-end luxury weddings, corporate event and AV stuff, everyone has to be built in that way that you're good at like that self-discipline, the goal setting, being able to serve someone and like see all the moving pieces that lead up to a thing. And I think that comes from like your band experience. It comes from like, we're putting on a show. These are all the things that come up, put on the show. And you're really good at optimizing all those processes. You're like a born optimizer. You're like, all right, here's all the things. I see how they work. But number two, like, gotta tweak. We gotta turn that one up a little bit. It's not quite right.
There's something about, again, like kind of like I just said, I like to see everything out in front of me. I think about it, and maybe it goes back to Olive Garden. Maybe Olive Garden is the reason why I am the way I am.
Oh, geez, never-ending breadsticks.
I am a never-ending breadstick. That's what I am. Think about it like this. Have you ever heard of mise en place? Do you know what that means?
No. So wait, say it again.
Mise en place.
No.
So it means to gather your ingredients. Which,
Ooh.
Who do you think taught me that?
Probably Mario.
But it's honestly, while it is directly reflective of a recipe, right? it's so true in everything, right? And at least the way that I think, you got to have everything out in front of you, right? Why would you start cooking something when everything is still way in the freezer or way in the deep of the cooler, right? And now you've got something that's hot that has to be served a certain way, but now you got to step away from it, so your quality's going down, right? You didn't do your preparatory steps of, the first thing is to get all your stuff, get your ducks in a row, get everything in front of you so you know exactly what you need to do to have the perfect outcome. And I think that's just like such an easy but so effective way to think about things, right? It's there in front of you, and you have the recipe, you have everything there, right? So I operate a lot like that. It's the same thing. Like, it's a system, it's a process. You can literally look at it from start to finish and go, I know exactly what's required of me. I know exactly how I'm going to crush this, and I'm going to find a way to do it better, right? So I feel like that is so helpful, and at least in my brain, in so many ways. I know plenty of people have like tried to start cooking or doing anything, right? I want to learn to build a house, right? Well, what are you gonna, just gonna hammer and a board and nails and be like, all right, I'm doing it? Like, your house is gonna fall apart very quickly, right? But if you have all your tools in front of you, if you have all the things you need, as well as whatever steps that you need, you'll probably be more successful than you were with just your 3 pieces to start. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with, not having everything in front of you, right? There's definitely times that you're going to be put in positions where, you have to think outside the box and be ready to, flip script and go in a whole different direction. And I think that's a skill in itself as well. But I think for starters, and I think in a lot of ways, if you want a successful outcome, got to have everything out in front of you. It's a great way to start.
I've never heard you say gather your ingredients, but that's like a genius way to consider it. Because it's the same. Okay, like most of the people listening to this podcast, and even if you're not, it still applies. But most of the people listening to this podcast are DJs or have a DJ background in some way. It's the same thing with private events. I mean, club work is different, bar work is different. But if you're doing a private event, bar mitzvah, wedding, whatever, there's usually some sense of like client expectations or songs or whatever. Like, who doesn't make a folder or a crate of the special moments and the must plays and the things like that? Like, right. That's gathering your ingredients to rock a party. If you don't have it in front of you, and I operate the same way. I have a pretty crappy memory when it comes to, oh wait, what are great songs that are in this vibe? It might come to me. I might hit a moment of inspiration, but for the most part, I've just done a lot of great gathering of my ingredients ahead of time and putting them in a playlists and crates, and just I've got good resources. And what I hear you saying is like, all right, you want to do some recruitment? Gather your ingredients. Like, what do you need? You need your ads, you need your resources, you need a slide deck for the presentations and all the different things. And that hearing you say that really illuminates for me a different way of like how I've heard you talk about some of the improvements that you've made for us, for our team. So speaking of, like, I know that you've been in charge of recruitment, hiring, and overseeing training for like a year now?
Just about. Yeah, probably close to, maybe a little over. Definitely close by.
And there was a while where I felt like we did a lot of it together at the beginning, but then you really took ownership over it. And just after this last season meaning like January through March, April, like that last big recruitment push that we had, I think you and I are both led by you, though. You were like, there's just something still not quite getting in the volume of like the percentage of people is just so low.
Sure.
But you've made some tweaks and some optimizations on your own. Like, will you kind of share just like one or two things that you've done with our recruitment process to tweak it that you're proud of?
I feel like first I got to recognize how well of a job that you did to start it, because I took over where you left it off. So I think that alone was already a great starting place, and the system itself worked great. I think what I noticed was that it wasn't working exactly how my brain works, or I noticed that there was opportunity to make it better for the applicant. So something that I noticed after doing a couple interviews in a row, where I was like, man, I feel like I'm getting asked the same questions. We're doing our next steps. People are asking the same things. It's not a great time. Like, I want to get to know you. I want to make this so personal. And you walk away as the applicant going, man, I'll never forget that. That needs to be like how every interview is. It doesn't feel like an interview at that point, really just getting to know someone. Something that I did to make that step easier for myself, as well as The applicant was I created a slideshow presentation that pretty much broke down everything that most people would need to know in a very generic, general sense of what is Sound Insight, what is Athens DJ Service, what are our values, what services do we provide, as well as highlighting all the great things that we do, right? So first thing they get to do as soon as they get on the video is they get a crazy, crazy cool montage clip that our content person, Tyler, put together, which is an amazing clip of literally 30 seconds, just this hype of Ranger montage party stuff. And it's such a cool way for people to just be like, whoa, that is awesome. You guys do all of that? Yeah, that's directly us. That's us in the flesh, you know? And I think that is a big win. With the slideshow too, I don't really focus too much on the, let me pick your brain and ask you, let me put you in this really difficult scenario and overanalyze everything that you're going to say, right? It's not important. Now, granted, yes, those questions, they do have value. There's so many other ways to ask those things that are way more personable, right? More accomplished based things. What are you doing in your life? What are the things that, you know, you as the applicant can take from that? And I think I saw a lot of value in that, and recently got to test a lot of some things that I built, and it worked great. Got some really great conversations out of it. Got to dive deep into who that person was, and it felt more like a connection, kind of like a couple and a client, right? You connect with them, and you've kind of gone to that next level. And then the last thing, a part of that, I was able to get like a testimonial video with one of our younger DJs to talk about how much they love what they do, and I think I share a lot of similarity in some way of most people maybe of saying, oh, whoever would have thought you just would have been a DJ, you know? Yeah. I think that is like the most relatable thing to anybody that's applying, unless they have experience, which is, you know, not really relevant right now. But I think that is something that they can immediately connect with. So when I was thinking, what is a way that I can get someone I'm talking to connect? Why not do it with someone who just did everything and is crushing and doing a phenomenal job? So shout out to Cohen for always doing a great job. But I asked him to do a testimonial video, and Tyler Spears, our content guy, also shout out to him, phenomenal. Did a great job really gathering that video, and I feel like it's awesome. I feel like it really does get a great way to connect, and I feel like you can even show that outside of a application process or an interview, and someone would still really connect with that, right? It's just really cool to hear someone talk about what they do, why they do it, why they love it. Not because it's a job, but they're doing it because they love it. I think that's super important too.
I couldn't agree more. And I think some advice that I got early on when I was starting to learn more about recruitment was from my cousin, Kevin, who is a very, very successful business owner. He said to me something that I never had heard before was, you know, when you do sales for your clients, just like to have a business, we all think about sales like convincing people why they should hire us or showing them the value of hiring us. And what we don't do often is show people the value of why they should work for us. Mm-hmm. You know, like a recruitment process is a sales process. And, you know, we have to sell us to them so they're excited about working for us. And when that dynamic starts where they are thrilled to work for us and they would like beat down the door to work for us, then we have the culture built when we get into hard training and hard experiences, or they're down on their, you know, like, they're feeling bad because like maybe they didn't have a good show early on. Mm-hmm. That feel that they want to be part of the team makes them open for mentoring and open to critiques, and all of that stuff starts mm-hmm. with how you approach recruitment. Right. And the mindset you have around it. And like the things that you've done to optimize that process I think is going to take us to the stratosphere in this next season, because it's not just like, oh, you can lift 50 pounds, which is important. We've learned that, right? But like, it's very crucial. You can lift 50 pounds, but like, you know, why do you want to be part of something special that we have here? And you did a really awesome job finding a way to communicate that in a way that you communicate mm-hmm. instead of like the way David communicates. And so since, you know, like, I think that is in itself, like the money tip, right? Like that's the thing that if you're listening and you're like, okay, I'm struggling with these problems with HR or staffing or recruitment or training, whatever, like it really starts with the feel of making people feel like they would just like do anything to be on your team.
Yeah, and I think to add to that too, also another hats off to you are the values that are in your company too. I think that is one of the most important things. Like, are your core values? What is it that you as a brand cherish? What is it that besides just your clientele are going to represent those values? Your team first is going to do that, right? Those things are unteachable, right? They're instilled in you. It's not something that I'm going to go, hey, I really want you to be happier here. Like, if I have to tell you that, you don't need to be a part of our team. That's
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's natural, right? The joy and the things of what you do are natural. And I think one thing I really love about the hiring stuff is you kind of get to preference that with people. I get a chance to tell them why I love what I do, and I get to show them. I didn't have to tell them. I just get to talk about everything that's company related and job related and opportunities, and they should be able to pick up from that I'm not like, all right, so yeah, you work one night, Friday, and best of luck. It might not work. Like that's so, it's I'm one of the first faces people get to see, which is also a huge opportunity for me to really like show how awesome what we do for people and how we can give back. And I think that all those things are super important, and getting to connect with somebody that isn't hiring you, but really is like, wow, I resonate with that. And I really want to be a part of that. I think is something that's unmatched. And it's also very difficult to find. I think being really stern on who you allow to be a part of your culture in general is 100% okay. I think that if you were to interview 100 people and you got one phenomenal person out of it, that's a win. That's a huge win.
It is a win. It is a win. I got asked 2 weeks ago, surrounded by lots of smart people in the industry, like, what, how do you have such great people on your team? I was like, because that's all we hire. Like, like, I don't know, I mean, yeah, like, we have a team at Sound Insight. Every single human being that DJs for Sound Insight is a unicorn, in that they are not only great performers, but they have like servant hearts. They are organized. They're great at like taking care of people. They're reliable. I mean, like, that's not typical in a quote unquote wedding DJ. The skill sets that we have are so much bigger. And that's why like we're able to do so much and turn so many heads at events, because people are like, oh, the lighting doesn't work. And then Ian climbs up on a ladder and fixes it. Like, that's not, or like, Chris redid someone's like IT infrastructure at a venue because it like brought down the whole system, and he went and fixed it. Like, just happens to be an IT genius. Like, come on. Like, right. These skill sets that we have are very complimentary. We're running out of time, so I want to end with one question and make sure I get to this, because you just talked a whole lot about loving having everything out in front of you. Mm-hmm. Like, here's the thing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are that way and love structured learning, structured expectations, structured frameworks, but you belong and you're part of a team where we are constantly building the plane while we're flying it as well.
Right.
Okay. Like, I am a guy who I'm like super entrepreneur mode, and I'm like, ooh, like, what's this? And I'm constantly dreaming, and we're constantly building, and we're stepping into new roles and developing people. How do you ask for clarity? How do you ask for feedback? How do you ask for direction? How do you get what you need from an organization that's ever changing to be able to get that structure the way you need it?
I think for one, asking for feedback is something that people usually try to feel very vulnerable about, right? They're scared of it almost. When you want, because it's going to be directly reflective of whatever you get, right? If I go, hey David, do you like this wall to be purple or yellow? And I was like, God, I hope it's yellow. And he's like, purple. And I'm like, you know what I mean? You got to be like, let's go purple, man. Like, it's there. But I live by something that I was taught a long time ago called the open door policy. And I think that living by that has made receiving feedback like such a learning opportunity. Not personal, right? It's not a personal thing. It's not a dig at who you are, what you do, but it's complimentary, right? It's constructive. And you it's a mentality, right? Even if it's not told to you constructively, it's constructive, right?
Yeah.
How do I get better from this? And I think living by that policy of being completely transparent and being like, listen, I've done these things. I want you to recognize this. Here's what I've done. I'm still struggling with this. And what have I done? Can you assess that I need to do better? Right. And like being hungry for that stuff makes a huge difference in growth and immediate results, as well as just like being better at yourself. I think that being able to take those kind of that kind of feedback immediately and being hungry for it is again, it's an instilled quality. It's hard to really teach somebody that, and especially in an environment where, you know, as a DJ or an MC, training people who have never done those things, you have to be very, very respectful of those things up front. You've got to be able to, you know, tell people, hey, listen, don't do that. But you got to be really positive about it too.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like you mentioned earlier, it's really easy to tell somebody, hey, can you do it like this? Right. But they might take that as like a completely different thing. You have to be so aware of how they're thinking. And so I try to always think like that too. How is someone else going to receive this and, you know, how do I naturally create that open door policy without telling them I'm going to be very transparent, right? It's a lot of positive reinforcement. It's a lot of being able to acknowledge what they've already done and then be like, hey, listen, so while all these things were great, I want you to try it like this and do everything you just did again, even if there's some room for work still. You don't focus on that. You focus on the big picture. So I think living by an open door policy and being hungry for that information will really drive results and just kind of make you better.
Boom. I think I'd like to say it that, and I saw you do this yesterday in Slack because, I don't even remember what we were talking about. It was, we're planning a public party. It's in like around a month from now. And you asked a question because you're going to do some of the support on the training side for some of the people that are supporting the event. And you asked me in Slack, what expectations do you have over this like whatever the specifics was. But you, like, what I take that from you to mean for me is I go, Cannon really needs to be told, like, if I can share with you what the expectations are, if I can help you gather your ingredients, right? And you'd be like, okay, I need you to use Parmesan. Like, I need you to use a red sauce. Like, I can kind of give you, like, it just needs to be pasta. And you're like, got it.
Yeah.
Your genius is unlocked and you're free to fly. And then you feel autonomous. You can handle the process. You can own the process as long as you know, like, where's the bar, or like, what does good look like? What does done look like?
Right.
And then you thrive.
For sure. I think I've also setting, it's kind of like you said I said, I guess, the gather ingredients, setting that expectation, right? If you set a threshold to just be okay, then you're only going to be okay. Right. Yeah. But if you set a threshold to be, you know, above amazing, you can at least be above amazing, but you can still go up, right? It's never going to stop. So I think those kind of expectations are super important. At least for me, they work for me very well.
Bro, we about to have a tour of Italy over here. What's in that? Was it chicken parm and some other stuff? I don't know what's in it.
You're close.
I'm close. Cannon, this has been a real treat. I think I've had a good sense of what you were going to say because I know you so well, but you still surprised me with some cool things. I really love to gather your ingredients. And I think for listeners out there, if you are looking to scale and grow beyond just having DJ talent on your team, I think this is an episode where you should really pay attention to everything Cannon's telling you and everything you can learn from Cannon. Or if you're just trying to also just get better at operations in general or system building, I think you have a lot to learn from Cannon. Cannon, will you share with everyone how they can find you online and see your tremendous swagger?
Feel free to reach out to me or follow me on Instagram. You can search Cannon Phillips. It's my first and last name. My @ is just my first name, so you can do that. It's got an underscore in the middle. So you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. Same name, doesn't change. And then you can also follow me on TikTok at DJ Cannon.
Get him on TikTok. He's got that new account. I like it. As always, guys, we got free resources on the website, blueprintlearn.com/resources. And first interview back in a while. Thanks for being a great one, Cannon. And we'll see you guys on the next one.